Hi, geography students. This is your first lesson, your very introductory concepts of what cultural geography is all about this semester. And why the heck is this on your degree plan? Some of you have a very few options for social sciences on your degree plan, like the culinary students, or sometimes nursing programs really encourage you to take geography because of all the different cultures you're going to come in contact with in your medical career. And it's just a really great class to take as an elective in general, even if it's not something specifically mentioned on your degree plan, because it has so many different things that you might be interested in that overlap with what geography is all about. So in this short video, this is like I said, the first lesson. You've already watched 3 videos this semester in your week 1 folder, and those are all logistical videos where I explain how to get points in the class and what certain assignments are all about. And what you're going to do with this video is you're going to slow me down, pause me, whenever you need to, and you're going to take notes just like we were in the classroom together and I was writing stuff on the board, or you were supposed to take notes for a test, because guess what? That's what you're going to do. You're going to take notes from these lectures that you watch every week, and you're going to keep a notebook or however you do it. I know that a lot of you are going to type stuff, and so that's what you need to do. And this lesson video is where you will get reaction paper ideas from, okay? So if you do want to be very ambitious and do a reaction paper this first week of class, this video, this 4th of the videos that you're watching this first week, this video is what you're going to use to write a reaction paper, okay? So, yes, you need your textbook as quickly as you can get a textbook. Now, you need probably the 10th, the 11th, or the 12th edition of the textbook. This is what it looks like. Let me see if you can see that. It's called Human Geography. Did you notice that? We have a Cultural Geography title in our class, but Human Geography for the title of the textbook. And it's really the same thing, okay? So you can use those words interchangeably, because culture, like I have over here on this document, cultural geography really means human geography, because humans, you and me, we create, we do, we think about, and imagine things. And in order to do that, we put ourselves into situations of places and spaces in the environment, in the climate. How do we communicate? How do we transport things? Are we talking about our local environment? Are we talking about globally? Are we talking about cyberspace? Are we talking about space transport in general? All of those different kinds of mental scapes that we engage in our imaginary life, or in our life of reality, trying to build the world around us or participate in society around us. It takes space, it takes place, it takes climate, it takes environment, it takes all kinds of different aspects of geography to for us to live our daily lives. Even just, when you're thinking about architecture and the way that we build our homes, when my husband and I were moving from from Central Arkansas to the Gulf Coast years ago, when we were looking for houses, all of the houses on the Gulf Coast were built on stilts. They didn't have basements, like sometimes you'll find a house in northern Arkansas with a basement, and in the Gulf Coast they were all built on stilts. Now let me see, is that a way that human beings were maybe reacting to or interacting with the environment in the area of the Gulf Coast? If you're saying yeah, then the answer is correct, because they have hurricanes, they have flood surge, they have all kinds of stuff that brings the water level up. And if you want your house to survive and the stuff inside it to survive the flood surge, then you want to build up so that you keep that stuff off the surface of the ground, close to sea level. And in northern Arkansas, where they have mountains, some people blast into the mountains to build a basement into the mountains. But down in the delta of Arkansas, where we're close to sea level, that you won't find many houses with basements, because humans are interacting with their environment and the way that we have to use the space in the place where we happen to be. So there's a whole lot of aspects of daily life that you might not have considered that actually have a lot to do with geography. So in this black area behind me with the white words in it, you will see that I have listed here this stuff here. Let me like indent it so you can tell a little bit more. This stuff here is a list of keywords that you would need to include in a very good definition of human geography or cultural geography. Now, typically what you're going to find in class with me is I will not just give you word for word a definition of something. I will give you key words that are necessary, key concepts that are necessary for you to include in a good definition of that word. And it's your job while you're taking notes is to, sure, make this list of key words, but take another second and write down a sentence, or in this case, a collection of sentences, because wow, that would be a major run-on sentence if you try to put all these things in one sentence together, because it's a huge concept. But anyway, it's your job to stop the video or wait till the end of the video or something. And if I have given you keywords for a definition that is important for you, then you need to try to write out that concept or write out a definition of that word using those key concepts. So for instance, look at this. I am going to read to you. I just told you I wasn't going to do it, but I am going to read to you out of chapter 1 of the textbook. I'm using the 12th edition of the textbook. It's on page 2 of chapter 1. I'm going to go ahead and read you what the textbook definition of human geography is. It's a long one. It's a doozy. But all of these concepts that you see on the screen here should be included in it. Maybe even some others that I might have forgotten in my list. And so we will correct that list right now if there are any that I forgot. But this is essentially how you should think about human geography. So the field of human geography, this is a quote from the book, the field of human geography focuses on how we, humans, organize ourselves and our activities in space, how we are connected to one another and the environment, how we make places and how those places in turn shape our lives, and how we think about and organize ourselves globally and locally. So that was, I think they tried to cram that all in one sentence. I'm not sure about the punctuation there and what all those colons mean that they put in there. But that is a long definition of what human geography is. So we're not just talking about maps, although we will look at maps and we will look at the way people use maps to communicate certain messages. But we're not going to just look at like topography, like meaning is there a river or are there mountains here? But we will look at how humans use those places and those locations and use the mountains for their personal benefit, for their cultural, the support of their cultural group. We will look at the way rivers enable transportation of different kinds of things. We will look at the way that radio waves make communication possible and all these different kinds of things. We'll look at disease vectors. That's one of the very first thing. I'm throwing out a fancy word there for you. Let me type it here. A vector is like a directional ray of something. But we'll look at things like disease vectors. That's one of the things that you'll read in your very first chapter. And it's always been in the very first chapter of a human geography book about pandemics. There's a word that we all would like to not have to hear about, I think. I can speak for all of us to say that we're sick of hearing the word pandemic. But one of the things that we have studied in human geography forever is the cholera pandemic back in the early 1800s. Cholera is a disease that causes diarrhea, which leads to terrible dehydration. And when you're dehydrated, you're very likely to die. So cholera was a deadly pandemic that spread throughout the environment. And at first we didn't know how it was spreading, but it actually had a lot to do with the way people were interacting with the geographic features around them and how they were participating in space and place and interacting. It was all about geography. And so if you are in the medical field, then you need to think about those kinds of ways that geography can affect our attitude and our ideas about medical care, the spread of disease, all those kinds of things. So I've got over here in this white area with the black letters behind me, I've got some like a look at geography like a wheel of geography that has all these little bubbles included with it. Because geography is something that we call, I'll type this word out also, we call it holistic. Oops, that's an O. Holistic. Geography is holistic. That means it covers every kind of thing, a human concept that you can come up with. Geography has some kind of input to contribute to that particular field, that particular discipline, that particular profession. Geography has something to do with it. Even if you are a video game developer, Minecraft, for instance, or any of the videos that you might want to, Fortnite or something, right? Any of the things that you want to play, you've got geography that you have to deal with. If you're building something, why are you building your village here? Well, it's by a river, it's in the lowlands, it's got good farmland or something. You're making geography decisions even when you are playing video games. So this wheel behind me over here, I've included this to kind of let you know that even if you were, darn it, in geography class because you didn't really want to and it was just on your degree plan, what the heck am I going to get out of this class, blah, blah, blah. There is something that you are definitely going to get out of this class, because all of these different things, from history to mathematics to politics and biology, home economics, there's a word that y'all might not even know what that means, right, at this stage in our busy lives. Physics, history, art, all these different kinds of things have something to do with geography. So if you look at biology, for instance, and this is a good thing for the culinary students to think about, we have to look at botany, we have to look at soils, we have to look at all the different kinds of compositions of terrain that exist around the world, and where can our food supply come from? Where in the world, where in our nation, where in our region are the best grasslands or the best places to have large animals for the food supply, or what kinds of grains? There's a lot of history that occurred in this land that we call the United States before Europeans ever arrived. And I was reading some of that history that was documented about foodways that existed in the Louisiana Territory when the natives were the population, the dominant population here, before the French and the Spanish came. And corn was a very dominant crop, still is. It's a very dominant crop in Mexico and in the southern United States because it grows very well here. It's indigenous. There's a word that you can get the spelling from the captions on YouTube and look up what the word indigenous means if you don't already know it. And I recall reading in a Frenchman's journal who had come to what we now know as the United States with LaSalle's group. He wrote very, very judgmental things about the natives here because they didn't know what rice was, they didn't know what wheat was, and they used rice and corn all the time, and this was unrefined or whatever the judgmental kind of stuff was in his personal journal. So there's a different kind of food source that natively indigenous people become accustomed to because of the geography. A good friend of mine is from Taiwan, tiny little island nation off the coast of China. There might be a war about Taiwan's territory one of these days. There's some political geography for you. And because there's so little land, they don't eat a whole lot of big animals like cows and pigs that take a lot of land to raise them up. Instead, they have a ton of seafood items, stuff that you and I have never seen, never thought about, don't even have in our imagination, these sea creatures that my friend eats, on a daily basis, because she grew up in Taiwan where there's just not a whole lot of countryside. It's like a whole lot of big, tall buildings to feed, there's interaction with space, build up so that a whole lot of people can live in the building, because there's not a whole lot of widespread land to put everybody out on the countryside, because there ain't no countryside. So geography has something for everybody. For your reaction paper during week 1, if you want to do a reaction paper during week 1, you could perhaps look at what your area of study, what your career field has to do or could have a connection to geography. You can rewind to where I read you the human geography definition and look at all these key terms and think about, what does nursing, what does culinary arts, what does welding, what does history have to do with geography? Okay, there's a little bit of friction there with history and geography. But this is lesson 1. I'll see you next week for more fun stuff to talk about. Bye.